golf is a little intimidating to a lot of people, especially in the beginning. But
Yeah.
to your point, it's the people around you that you go with that really make the
Yeah.
rounds, right? And I'm assuming then that Buena Gente, like the name and the golf component of it, is about the Buena Gente of being the people that you play with.
Exactly. It has a lot to do with the people you play with, but the person you are yourself, right? There's more to Latinos than just skulls, sombreros, and tequila. Like, there's brands that'll
Yeah,
put stuff on like Hispanic Heritage Month. Here is a taco truck head
right.
cover. It's like,
Yeah,
bro, that's not all of Latin America.
exactly.
Like
Exactly.
where there's a lot more to it. Something that defines all of us, Cubans, Puerto Rican, Mexicans, Colombians, is that we're good people. Like
Right.
we know about our parents and our parents' parents that they would fix a plate for somebody, a random person, right?
Hmm.
And or just the interaction between two people, and it might get loud in a good way where it's fun, and it's there's just like that vibe.
Yeah.
And I created the brand to share that with others, to show and put a positive light on the people we are. And if it's and honestly, it's been magical up until now.
All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Tranquilo Tea Time segment. We got the Senor aquí, John, de Buena Gente Golf. Appreciate you for jumping on, brother.
Saludo. Yeah, thank you. No, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it. I know you and I have connected a few times,
Hmm.
and first and foremost, a very big fan of what you're doing. I
Appreciate it.
definitely appreciate your, and I'll let you speak to it, but your initiatives that you've done for the game of golf, and a lot of synergies, and I think the ways that we're thinking about things, and it's
Yeah.
good to have kind of like-minded people in this space, because I don't think there's a lot of us thinking about it this way, yet I do
Mhm.
think there's a ton of opportunity. But before we get into things, I want you to obviously give a little bit of an introduction about yourself, about Buena Gente, and we'll get into the convo from there.
Yeah. Let me know how much time I got, because I could keep going, bro. I'll take up the rest of the hour, honestly.
Take as
I'm
much
kidding.
time as you want.
No, my name is Jonathan Madera. Most people call me John. Family calls me Yoni. I am Puerto Rican, born in West Palm Beach, Florida. Don't know anything about it. They moved me to, well, the family. I was a 9-month old baby, so to New York, and I was in New York till I was about 14 years old. Moved to Puerto Rico and just finished high school in Puerto Rico. So my teenage years in Puerto Rico, 3.5 years around abouts. And I started to study digital design, first computer animation, then digital design. It went into, because I moved with my family even farther away from that college. It just turned into graphic design, and from graphic design, I went onto digital design, visual designer, UX, UI, product design. So, really, I am a product designer by trade. Product design meaning digital experiences. Before it used to mean physical things. Before, now it's
Right.
it's the digital experience, or the experience you have when interacting with digital interfaces. And then when I went into a leadership position, I felt like I needed to, I don't know, keep my skills sharp, do
Mm-hmm.
more of the designing, and that's where Mayo Ketchup, my first clothing brand, was born. And I started Mayo Ketchup, and with
Mayo
time,
ketchup, like
yeah,
mayo and ketchup, right?
yeah, the dipping
Okay.
sauce. It was funny because I was when I went to Florida on a trip. I I felt like mayo ketchup was like very a Puerto Rican thing, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's something we use as a dipping sauce for our fried foods. But when I went
Mm-hmm.
to Florida, it's like every place had mayo
Yeah,
ketchup.
yeah.
Peruvian restaurant, Colombian restaurant. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, this will be a term that most people will understand.
Yeah, that's funny.
But living on and the idea of mayo ketchup was doing designed shirts because I never felt like us Latinos had graphics on a t-shirt that were nicely designed. I always felt like everything was just like typed up,
Right.
and then slapped on a shirt,
Mm-hmm.
or like pulled an image from Google and then printed it on a shirt. And I got really into my father's salsa music from the 70s and 80s, and they have the best quotes and the best phrases in salsa music, like the best, the most gangster stuff they
It's
say. And
true.
I was like, I'd love to take these quotes and put it on shirts, and that's how Mayo Ketchup was born.
That's
But
cool.
over time, I just got tired of explaining to people, oh, Mayo Ketchup is a dipping sauce for our fried foods, and we add other spices or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sunset that, but I always liked the ring of Buena Gente, just like the term. Um, Not only the way it rolled off the tongue, but what it meant also. And that's when I started Buena Gente brand. So Buena Gente brand came before Buena Gente Golf.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I could
So
keep going, but that's
yeah, yeah. No,
that's
no,
kind of
that's
where
that's
Buena Gente
that
Golf
that's
started.
a great summary, and honestly, it's a great way to showcase the pivot between Buena Gente, the
Mhm.
brand, and Buena Gente Golf, right? So
Yeah.
you started Buena Gente, pero ahora you have Buena Gente Golf, which has been something that, obviously you've been working hard at it, but you're seeing the growth of it, right? Obviously, the
Yeah.
the growth of the game of golf has been huge, right? You see more people picking up a club than ever before. All the courses are packed. You got places like Top Golf that are packed, and a lot of these different initiatives outside of what you see on TV, but on the everyday
Hmm.
that you have all these recreational people playing game at that facet, right? So
Yeah.
from Buena Gente, the brand, you got into golf. How did that happen, right? Like, what made you say, "Hey, I'm going to turn this brand into a golf brand"?
Yeah. So ever since I was small, my dad he got really into golf. Matter of fact, I thought it was kind of weird when he came home. This
Hmm.
is a welder in the union in New York City, and he comes home with a driver and those little wiffle ball golf balls,
Right.
and I was like, "This is not it, man. Like,
Yeah.
what are we
Well, how are
doing?"
you
Like,
doing?
first,
Yeah.
first he got into tennis with my older brother, and then my older brother and him got into golf, and I was I was alone a lot, even though I had a big family. I was alone a lot, so
Hmm.
I'd go to the front yard and hit those wiffle balls and be like, "Yo, this is easy, right?" Because the wiffle ball doesn't really tell you,
No, all the
much.
spin and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I'm just good at this, but it was like kind of like I didn't never got into it. I never got into going to a driving range, even though I had the basics of the swing down.
Hmm.
And it's not like my dad took me to the driving range of the course. So years, like until my 20s, was when I actually went and stepped foot on a golf course.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and even though we lived in Puerto Rico in Ponce,
Hmm.
right next to the urbanization where we lived was El Hilton, which is, a
Yeah.
golf course in Ponce, very well
Hmm.
known. I never went, never stepped foot
Wow.
on it, nothing. So it was until in my 20s and once I was married that I got to experience what golf was like. And then even then it was like on and off, a very casual golfer, a year, like once a year, a
Hmm.
couple of times a year, go to the driving range here and there, never, I'd get into it and it was just like in waves.
Right.
And then I had some unfortunate run-ins. I spoke about this last week
Hmm.
for that event that the PGA held, where as many beginner golfers would do, I left my club in the previous hole. When I went to get it, there was a young man, and in the full outfit and everything, and he handed me the club, and I said, "All right, thanks, bro." And he said, "Bro." Like, for me, right then and there, it was like, no, man, there's a clear divide. We're not the same. You're
Right.
not my bro, right? And
Hmm.
I honestly didn't pick up a golf club for like 6, 7 years after that. I was just like, this
Wow.
is not me. This is not for me.
Right.
Um, and then over time, like friends started inviting me. We started picking it back up. And when I
Right.
started noticing that, it was like, all right, my group is what makes this experience fun for me.
Exactly.
and the people that I interact with is what matters. That's when I started going a little more frequently. I always felt like I was good if I gave it more effort.
Hmm.
But I just never gave it a lot of effort until I moved here to Oregon about 2.5 years ago, and that's when Buena Gente Golf just kind of, that spark, that
And
idea, to do it came
right.
up.
Yeah. And I think, it's a few things there, right? I mean, golf is a little intimidating to a lot of people, especially in the beginning. You pick up a club and you're like, how the hell do I start to hit this ball? Right.
Yeah.
And, there's all these mechanics and all this. And you're like, you hit a ball and it's going absolutely nowhere. And you're just like, I can't do this. Right. Like immediately
Hmm.
like you tell yourself you can't do this. And then you add the factors of, the maybe the crowd or just the environment or just some of the taboo things of an old and antiquated way of thinking about golf, right? That maybe
Hmm.
just pushes you out even further. Like you said, you kind of tried it and you're like, this is not for me. But
Yeah.
to your point, it's the people around you that you go with that really make the
Yeah.
rounds, right?
For sure.
Obviously, golf gets more fun as I mean, hypothetically, it gets more fun, I guess you could say, as you get better, right? It
It
still
gets it
pisses
gets
you
more fun
off.
and it gets more frustrating
It
too.
gets more frustrating,
They both
exactly.
grow in parallel. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I think that's a very good point, right? It's more about the people that you're with, and
Yeah.
that's what really enhances the experience. And I'm assuming then that Buena Gente, like the name and the golf component of it, is about the Buena Gente of being the people that you play with.
Exactly. Yes, and it has a lot to do with the people you play with, but the person you are yourself, right? Uh, I am I'm big on sharing with people. Like when you're so stoked on something, you're so passionate about something, you want to share it.
Hmm.
Um, I am I'm very big on that. Like, I know that we're lively, fun, energetic people. Why not share that with people, through social media? Like,
Hmm.
share who we are as a culture. And I feel very strongly about there's more to Latinos than just skulls, sombreros, and tequila. Like, there's brands that'll
Yeah.
put stuff on like Hispanic Heritage Month. Here is a taco truck head
Right.
cover. It's like,
Yeah.
bro, that's not all of Latin America.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
where there's a lot more to it.
Hmm.
And I think something that defines all of us, Cubans, Puerto Rican, Mexicans, Colombians, is that we're good people. Like
Right.
we know about our parents and our parents' parents that they would fix a plate for somebody, a random person, right? And
Hmm.
or just the interaction between two people, and it might get loud in a good way where it's fun, and it's there's just like that vibe.
Yeah.
And I created the brand to share that with others, to show and put a positive light on the people we are. And if it's and honestly, it's been magical up until now. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's a true como familia component to it,
Yeah.
right? Like we're all
Yeah.
everyone's familia, everyone's there to help each
Exactly.
other out, and
Mhm.
it's like you go a little bit of an extra mile when that you're one and the same, I guess you could say.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
So tell me a little bit about the a logo, right? You have the interlocked fingers,
Yeah.
and just I want to hear it from you. Obviously, I think it does a good job of representing your message, but would love to
Mhm.
hear kind of the inspiration behind that.
Yeah. The inspiration is I didn't want to do the normal run in the mill like country club type of logo.
Hmm.
I wanted it to stand out from other from other logos, and I I'm always about like what creates an impactful, like, boom, like, oh, you won't forget this logo, right? Like that visceral reaction. And I felt like when I thought of this, I had my kid take a picture of me. I did the
With
the
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 swing.
hands in front of that, and with the iPad, he took a picture, and I traced over it and
Very
and
cool.
Procreate, and I said, yeah, man, this is gonna work. And then when I started thinking, what gives it that feeling of that style and swagger that we bring.
Hmm.
And when I say swagger, it's not just the fashion, but the people we are, the way we carry ourselves. And one of the things that came to mind is just, the old heads, how they wear jewelry just to go out to the corner bar and chill
Yeah.
with their friends, right? They get all decked out. And I thought of my dad and my uncles and how they kind of carry themselves with that swagger, and I felt that those rings would add that element to it. And then of course the brown hand is really, the top portion really signifies like culture and style, and how we marry that, and there's that fusion and there's that combination with the golf world, and the white glove signifies the golf world,
Yeah.
as it is, right? The people that make the decisions, the people that play the game, and say, in a way, what I'm messaging is that there is a unity there, a fusion, that component of, we can play well together, right? We're not here to change any rules, disrupt anything.
Right.
We're just injecting that fun loving humor and energetic vibe into the game also, which there probably, there is already. There's a lot of influencers on the rise, and they
Hmm.
have a lot of attention, and they're making it fun.
Right.
And also want to do that for Hispanics, just showcase who we are as a group, as an audience.
Oh, I love it. It's
Thank
a
you.
super cool logo, and I
Thank you.
love kind of
Appreciate
the
it.
message behind it. So I think that is a good kind of segue into the next conversation that I want to have with you. Right? It's something that me personally, I'm third generation Cuban. Right? My grandparents were born in
Yep.
Cuba, and my parents were born in the States. But I've always loved to represent my culture. Right? Like
Yeah.
some of my favorite moments are with my grandparents and just the
Mhm.
traditions. And, I've almost put it upon myself, even with my younger brothers to be like, hey, we got to keep this alive, like we
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
let this shit die. Right.
Yeah.
And so, those moments are some of my favorite. Right. And I will always carry my culture with me in a very
Hmm.
passionate way, kind of like you were mentioning. Right. And for me, golf was like, yeah, I played golf to play golf. Right. And whatever, it was fun. I like to hang out with my boys, and we always had a good time, right?
Yeah.
But as I started getting older and wiser, right, I started realizing, hey, there is a ton of Hispanics and Latinos
Yeah.
that are playing golf, right?
Hmm.
But who's talking about them? Who's representing them, right? So then I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's on the fan side. Let's go look at the tour, right? Let's go look at the tour. Let's go look at PGA Tour Americas and look at all these pro golfers and see where they're from. And you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit. You got Colombians, you got Argentinians, you got Venezuelans, you got
Chileno. Yeah.
Chileans, you got everything, bro, right? And you're
Yep.
like, okay, wait a minute. So you got all these guys on tour that play. You got all these guys that are fans of the game in terms of the rec side of it, right? Where they're going to Top Golf, or they're going to the par three course, or they're going to play 18, whatever it may be. But they're going there and they play. And like you said, they have their own little swagger to them, right? The
Yep.
way they talk, the way they walk, the way they look, the way they dress, all these things. Like it's the Latino flavor that we have to us. So I'm like, shit,
Yeah.
someone's got to represent these people a little bit more. And, that's
Hmm.
something that in the last year, we've kind of put it upon ourselves, to kind of be a voice and express that voice and give an
Hmm.
audience out there, right? Which I think obviously is something that you're doing very well as well, obviously with your brand. So what I want to ask you is, one, how can we continue to grow the game amongst Hispanics and Latinos, right? I think we talked about it offline, some of the things that we're already doing, but where do you think there's that gap, and how can we kind of close that gap a little bit to represent Latinos in a relevant way, and also showcase to fans that, hey, you should be watching golf because there are guys out there that are familia and close
Yeah.
to your culture.
Yeah. What can we do? So the question is, what can we do as a larger, broader culture to
Yeah,
to bring awareness to Latinos
us
in the game?
fans
Yeah.
ourselves. Yeah, exactly.
That's a great question, man. I I find it hard to answer because I remember in the first PGA show in 2023 when I went,
Hmm.
someone asked me, "What are you doing to grow the game?" And I said, "Absolutely nothing. Like, I'm not doing anything."
Right.
It's for me, I hadn't thought about it, and what came to mind was I'm not doing anything bringing people in because we've already been here. Like there's
Right.
been there's been people. It's how do I make those people that are already golfers feel comfortable, feel represented, feel like they could put something on that represents them, or they represent their culture. But over time, it started to become more of, all right, how do we bring awareness to the athletes and also on the fan side, exactly to to answer your question. It's a great question because we're here, right? It's like now
Exactly.
let's shine a spotlight on it.
Hmm.
I think, and this is one of the things I told the PGA because they asked the question also, like, what can the game do for the Hispanic communities? And I said, I'd love to turn the question around and say, what can Hispanic communities do for the game of golf, which is
Hmm.
a lot.
Right.
But the recommendation also, another question is, what can we do to reach out? And I think there needs to be people like us that understand and live the culture at a level that can message and communicate to the audiences,
Right.
right? Because you can tell when somebody's not Cuban marketing to you. You can just
Right.
tell in the
A
lingo. You're
hundred
like,
percent.
all right, so it's like the marketing department needs to throw in a Latino in there, to,
Yeah.
right? And I think it comes through and it shines through with lingo, visuals, be
Hmm.
it photography or video. And communication is everything. And the way you communicate to an audience and to people is key. So to have the right people in those positions to say, well, listen, this is how the culture is. This is what'll engage them or attract them. If we represent the game of golf, maybe in not such a, you know,
Right.
how do I say this without offending anybody?
I
Like
know.
it,
I know what you want to
not
say.
so
Yeah.
buttoned up, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it's not so buttoned up. Maybe somebody that looks a little more rough around the edges. He just got off of his like blue collar job and went to the
Yeah.
driving range. If you could show that through visuals, through the copy, the lingo, it's a big part of what I do as a designer, the research, right?
Yeah.
Because with with the same words that people use, you use that to attract them. And long-winded answer, but really for me, it's have the right people at the right place to
Yeah.
communicate with that audience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, I don't think there is a one answer to that question either. You know,
Mhm.
it's something that, I've asked Camilo Villegas, Nico Echeverria, Rafa
Yeah,
Campos, right? All guys that, eat and breathe their culture and represent their culture in a very passionate way. And,
yeah,
I think that there is a common denominator on it, right? It's one, you got to introduce the kids at a young age, right? You got to
yeah,
make the game more accessible and maybe in some of these countries. Two is, hey, talk about us more and let people know that we exist, that we're from these places, and say,
yeah.
hey, look at me, because look at soccer, right? I mean,
Hmm.
soccer's passionate about the sport, but they're also passionate about their country, which is why they represent the players that come from those places, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's very similar to golf, right? If I knew that there was a bunch of Cuban guys playing golf, I'm going to be like, shit, I'm going to want to watch them. And mind me, the Cuban thing is probably not the best example considering the current
yeah,
state of Cuba from a political
yeah,
standpoint, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, that's where my family is from, and you're always going to have an affinity to that, right?
yeah,
But it's the same thing in Colombia, it's the same thing in Puerto Rico, right? You're going to have, if it comes down to a guy that you're not a fan of and the Puerto Rican neck and neck going in on a Sunday, who are you going to be rooting for, right?
yeah, exactly.
So I think that helps. Obviously you want to see more of those guys at the top of leaderboards. I think also, unfortunately, that's been a struggle where we're not seeing a lot of these guys at the top
Yeah.
of leaderboards, where that just brings mass media attention and you can
Hmm.
almost use that as leverage. But I think the reality is, like, accessibility is a big thing, right? Obviously
Yeah,
golf, compared to, like, you could go to a park and go play football or basketball for free, right?
for free.
Can't
Yeah,
just show up. You can't just show up to a golf course and hit balls for free, right?
yeah,
So there's some hurdles to this, I would say.
yeah,
And I think that that's a bigger problem than just like what we're talking about, but it is something that I think golf in general has to look at. And, we can continue to do our part and say, hey, you know what? yeah, golf may be expensive, but you know what? Check out this course. It's a great place to get started. It's
Yeah.
cheap. It's $15. You can go play 9 holes and you'll have a freaking awesome time, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not always about the pristine clubhouses and the
Hmm.
pristine courses out there. There's good little courses that you can have a good time. It may not be the
Yeah.
best quality course, but you know what? That 9 holes might be the best 9 holes you ever play of your life, and
Yeah.
it's a good time, you know?
I think also, and I had spoken to some of the folks that you and I were talking
Yeah.
about before, and I was telling them a golf course could do a million things to attract people.
Hmm.
You might not get those people that are just like, oh, golf is for XYZ. It's always the same three words, right?
Right.
Um, I think it would be awesome to bring golf to people, right? To
Hmm.
neighborhoods, to um, let's say schools, like set up a mini like I don't know, mini simulator or something, whatever,
Yeah.
right? A putting
Even a
challenge or
putt, yeah, a putting green or
yeah.
something.
And so that's the idea I had with a golf course in Alameda, and we're trying to come up with ideas of how do we bring golf to people rather than expect them to come and show up when
Hmm.
never going to a golf course. All of a sudden they're gonna show up for an event. Like,
Yeah.
no,
No,
dude, like
yeah, exactly.
you know what I'm saying? Like, so what do you do to make it when you said more accessible? You can't get more accessible than bringing it to a local school, a local gym,
Hmm.
um, getting a drive box, setting up a couple of drive box in a local area where people just generally don't think of golf as a
Right.
pastime, hobby, a sport, or anything.
It's true.
Um, and so I think it's just reaching out more,
Yeah,
but also understanding the community. Like, what
absolutely.
research are you doing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Something that just came into my head because I've obviously I've been following you, and another thing I guess to kind of piggyback off of it is the female audience in golf,
mm,
right? You were getting hit up about a bunch of women's merch, right?
yeah,
Saying like, "Hey, where's the women's merch? Where's the
daily.
women's merch?" Like all the time. So what's your thoughts on that, right? Because I think that's part of the game growing. We've seen that the female audience, not just Latinos and Latinas, but females in general, are very interested and getting into golf. I get a lot of inquiries too. It's like, hey, how can we get into golf? Like we're interested in playing too, right? So I want to hear your thoughts on that because I know you've run into some of that.
Yeah, I could honestly say that when I did the video explaining why I did this, it came 2 years after I started it. Like I never explained
Hmm.
the meaning behind the name, the meaning behind the logo, or
Right.
why I'm doing it. When I did that first video, it blew up, and I went from like 4,000 followers, and I'm still getting followers. I just hit 15,000. Eighty
Crazy.
percent of those are females. It's
Crazy.
it it's wild. It's wild. A lot of my orders had during that time were females buying for their men because they
True.
couldn't find anything for them.
Hmm.
And what does that tell you, dude? Like we always said in the Latino, like Hispanic spend power in the U.S. is incredible. It's wild, right?
Yep.
But now, like this tells me a lot more. Latina spend power is
That's true. They're the
is
ones sending the money.
wild.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
wild, right?
Whether it's for
And
them or for their hubby, boyfriend, whatever you want to call it, they're
yeah,
the ones that are going to buy that stuff for them.
exactly, exactly. What does that tell you? I mean, first they're passionate not only about what they want, what they believe, because I also got a lot of comments like people like just make the shirts and shut up, right? Like so I got a lot of that
Hmm.
from guys, but what it tells me is that women are very passionate about representation. Um, and I love that. I mean
Yeah.
that's awesome. And then Latinas are not shy to tell you what they want.
Yeah.
So they're like comments after comments after comments,
Yeah.
like and then DMs and then emails. It's like, where's the women's line? Where's the women's line? And of course, it gets to the point where you're like, all right, I gotta listen to the obvious feedback. And so, I derived various insights from that,
Hmm.
but I just love the fact that they're vocal about what they want, but also the proof is in the pudding. It's right there. It's in the
Yeah.
followers. and it tells you what audience is very passionate about representation. Now, I haven't dug in deeper. Is it just the apparel? Is it the story? Is it this? Is that? What is it? I mean, you and I could honestly just brainstorm on it right now. Why is
Right.
it that so many females feel so passionate enough to ask about, not ask, demand that women's line, but follow
Right.
and support. You know, they're supporting in a way where it's like I couldn't thank the followers enough. Um, but what does it say about Latinos at large,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It tells us a lot of things. Maybe the guys
I
are just like, I don't care. I'm just gonna put on whatever polo, and she's like, no,
hmm
I care how you look, even when you're not with me out in the golf
Exactly.
and stuff like
Exactly.
that,
Oh,
right?
knowing no having
Yeah,
a Latina girlfriend and being around, Latinas my whole life, they they like to make the decisions, and that's
yeah.
just the reality of the
I
fact.
know what you're talking about,
And that's the reality of the fact. I mean, I think you
bro.
could go off of that alone. I've
Yeah,
been, and I'm sure too. It's just like, hey, honey, look what I got, and it's like you put on the other polo, and then they're gonna be like, why aren't you wearing the polo I got you? You know.
yeah. Have you ever bought your girl anything, bro? Let me ask you something. Have you ever bought your girl anything like that?
Like for her birthday and
Like, no,
for
like I meant like like to wear.
oh no, I actually don't think so. Actually, like
Okay.
out like accessories maybe, but like not
Okay, yeah.
clothes. I don't think.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's
I wouldn't even
super
know where to
tough.
start, to be honest.
Yeah. Like a girl.
Shoes. I've done shoes. I've done watches,
Okay.
jewelry.
You done
Um,
shoes with her there telling you I want those shoes, or you went on your own and said these
I
shoes
went
are
on my own. I went on my
oh
own and got them.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of like knew from like her saying I like those type of shoes. So obviously that gave me like a hint as to what to get. But
I'd
no,
like
it
to
wasn't
ask
like one
more
of those
guys.
things.
I'd
Huh?
like that. You're the first person I asked. Like
That's a
I'd
good
like to
question.
ask. I'd like to ask more guys, bro, because when I was recently married, I attempted it. I had a few friends that would do it,
Yeah.
and I attempted it, and it was just like I always got it wrong. It was just like she's like, I
I
want to
also
wear
I also
this.
think that my girl probably knows me better than I know myself. You
Yeah,
know, so she's gonna be like, "Yeah, that's gonna look good on you," and then I'm like,
yeah,
"Really?" And then I put it
mhm.
on, and I'm like, "Shit, yeah, you're right. This does look good on me." You
Yeah,
know,
huh. Yeah. You're great at that, man.
I'd be terrible at that.
Yeah, I mean, well, going back to the question, I we did finish the women's line, the designs, and we're about to submit it to
Okay,
two
nice,
manufacturers. We're gonna get samples. It's Bro, it's so dope that me and my buddy joke around saying, "Man, we want one of those blouses. We want one of those polos for the women." It's really, really, really nice.
nice,
And I got a designer she did the whole women's line for an extremely popular brand, very popular brand,
nice.
and she's working with me on this. And she's just a rock star, man. Seriously.
Hell yeah,
So I'm super pumped about it. And I mean, the cool thing is that she's like, I'm so excited about this. Like, this is how we started with the other brand, but obviously over time,
of course.
there's numbers and that you need to hit and stuff like that. So you kind of lose that creativity and innovation. Like it's just
hmm
pumping out designs. But
Yeah,
she's really pumped about the designs
hell
also.
yeah. I'm excited to see it too.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess my next question would be, before we get into some fun golf questions, would be, what's been your, and I'm sure there's many of them, but what's been your biggest challenge since starting Buena Gente?
I would say two things. First, it's me myself. Like
Yeah,
I am. There's a lot of mental barriers that I've had to quite honestly work on. Like just do therapy. Like
absolutely.
really, really get over some of those mental blockages. I'm a perfectionist that holds you back with a lot of things.
hmm
Um, I like to, just delegating things was really hard for me. Seeing myself the way others see it is tough because when you get told all the time, like, yes, we needed this. Your brand is the brand XYZ, and people see the brand as something huge for the Latino community. You're the voice for them, and then I've had a hard time seeing myself like that.
Right. Yeah.
And it's tough because it's that constant that, what do they call it, that auto critique, or like you're critiquing yourself and
Right.
the work you do. And so it's been hard. I think I could have gotten a lot farther in this short period of time. I'm not gonna lie. When I look back, I'm very happy where I'm at in just
Of
2 years.
course.
Yeah, but I think I probably could have done a lot more if I would have just removed myself from blocking myself of getting things done, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always going to be your biggest critic, at the
yeah,
end
for
of the
sure.
day. I mean, and it's funny you say that. I mean, I'm very similar in that way where, you have certain expectations and things that you expect to achieve in life, but reality is when you do that, you're putting and you said it best, like you're putting a limitation on yourself, right? Because
Yep.
you've already kind of closed off as like, if it doesn't happen this way, I've failed, or if it doesn't happen
Yeah.
by this time, I failed. And reality is some of these things are completely out of our control, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, the work and the time and the effort and the energy that we put into it, those are things, the output that we can control. But
Hmm.
the result of our output is out of our control.
Yeah.
You could put in the work daily, but you're not guaranteed anything from a result standpoint, right? You might
For
see
sure.
little wins here and there, and it was something that I had to teach myself that, right? Where it's like you start playing the comparison game where it's like, I'm doing this and they're doing
Yeah.
this and why am I not there, right? And I mean, that's outside perspective. It's really not. You don't really know it to be true. This is just you looking at someone else through social media or
Hmm.
an
Hmm.
article maybe that you read, and God forbid you don't really know what's happening behind closed doors, but you get stuck in this constant loop, and it comes from like we have a certain expectation on ourselves and we hold ourselves to a high standards, which is good, but it's also a curse at the same time, right? Because
Yeah, for sure.
you're when you don't meet that, you're angry at yourself, right? And you're
Hmm.
frustrated with yourself. But yeah, something that at least for me that's worked is just like I've been big on my faith, and like that's been huge for me, and just trusting
Oh,
that.
good for you.
But also just realizing like what I can control is what I can control,
Yeah.
not always have the gas to the, gas foot down on the pedal and just like go, go, go all the time. And just like really start to enjoy the journey and the process that comes with things, and allow what's supposed to be in my life to be present in my life, and assume that the rest will kind of take care of itself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you look back, like you said, you look back at where you started it to now, and you're like, dude, there's so many wins to celebrate. That's
Yeah.
another thing. We don't give ourselves enough credit, I don't think either.
Yeah. No, yeah, yeah. You're 100% right. It's as I mentioned, we get in our own way.
Hmm.
But it's tough. I think a lot of the things that they told me in the beginning was, to start a brand, you need to do this, 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 this. And I was like, I'm not doing all that. I'm not doing all that. I'm getting something out, and I'm getting
Right.
something out now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of learnings on the way. I didn't do everything right in the first release
Of
of
course.
the polos, but there's a lot of learnings
Yeah.
but I think that's the biggest takeaway is just
Hmm.
get out there and find out through the feedback what's working and what's not working. It's like,
Hmm.
Facebook's model of fail fast, right?
Yeah.
The sooner you get that feedback, the quicker you can pivot or adjust,
Yeah.
or know that you have a problem solution fit.
Yeah. I mean, to add to that point, I mean, there's a quote that I just read from the legendary Mr. Worldwide, Pitbull, and he loves his little cliche phrases, but he's not wrong. And you listen to his story, he's a smart guy, obviously, and he's marketed himself extremely well. But he said you got to change the word from mistakes to must aches, right? So must,
Yeah.
MUST, aches, right? Because
Yeah.
mistakes are inevitable. You have to make mistakes to be able to learn and to grow.
Sure.
No one of that's bred any level of success in their life hasn't made multiple mistakes along the way, right? It's what
Yeah,
you do with those mistakes and how you learn from them, and even learning from other people's mistakes along the way, so that you can get better and you grow from it, and you provide a better product at the end of the day.
exactly. Yeah,
Mistakes are necessary for growth.
for sure, for sure, man. Couldn't agree more. Yeah,
But let's get into some, and I appreciate you for sharing that, and really
yeah,
kind of being transparent about that. But
of
let's get
course.
into some golf stuff. Now you've been golfing now for a few years. Do you have a favorite golf moment on the course? I'm sure there's a few out there, but anything in particular of like one of your favorite moments on the course?
Yeah, I would say. So my oldest brother, he came to Oregon last year just to visit and spend time with me and my boys and my wife, and he, much like myself, was just like a casual golfer. It's like when I go, I go. It's all
Mm-hmm.
right. And and then the second oldest brother is an addict. He's been playing for years,
Mm-hmm.
and he is the golfer. Him and my dad are the golfers of the family. But when my brother came here, I had already started when I had to golf, and he would always check in and say, "Hey, what are you up to now? What are you gonna do next?" And he was a fan of what I was doing. And so when he came here, I took him to a par three, and the thing is that the par three where I took him, there's a lot of trees, and there's a little like an RV campsite right
Okay.
next to it, and it's the clubhouse is really old and kind of like it's cute, but it's
Right.
not modern. So honestly, it's not the nicest place from the outside. Once you play and you're in the middle of so many, like you're playing in the woods, people always say, "Dang, this is really nice,"
Yeah.
right? So it's not all like,
It's first impression. It's not great, but
yeah,
once you're in it, it's
exactly.
it's
Like
a solid
all the
course.
ads, all the marketing you get is from country clubs that look really green. Like, no,
Mm-hmm.
this golf course is pretty beat up,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's in the middle of the woods and it's nice. There's a lot of shade, and the vibe is very casual. And my brother told me, dude, playing here and playing with you, because I'm not about like, well, at least then I wasn't about every stroke. It's just like I
Right.
had the music, salsa music playing. We were just walking, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, this is what I like. He told me, he was like, I like this, and to be able to do provide an experience for my brother that doesn't really care about golf to think of, oh man, that's the type of and that's the style of golf I like to play. Um, it's something I'll always carry with me. I
That's awesome.
love the fact, and I think about it a lot, that he told me, dude, I like playing this pace, this style where we're just chilling, hitting the
Mm-hmm.
ball. If it comes out good, good. We keep walking, and we had the music on, and I think that's I'm always gonna remember that as a fond memory, because my brother passed away about 4 months ago.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so that's something that for me, to remember that that I created that space for him, will always, I'll
Damn.
always carry that with me. Sorry to no, I didn't mean
No,
to make
no, no,
the
no,
mood
no,
go
no,
down,
no,
but
no, at all,
it's very
at
special
all.
for me. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And
Mhm.
one, sorry, I'm extremely sorry for your loss. I had no
Thank you,
clue,
thank you.
but it is a special moment, right? And
Yeah,
it brings back, to your point that the power of golf really does
yeah,
bring some of the best memories. Whether there's, the people that you play with are still around or they're not still around, it is always that memory. And it honestly, those memories are going to get stronger and stronger as times go on,
yeah,
because those are some of the best moments. And you're going to think about a certain hole probably for the rest of your life
yeah,
because of that. So that's
yeah. And I got
that's
video.
strong, man. That's
Yeah,
cool.
I got video of us that day and stuff, and it's cool. Like, you think about it. This is a guy that would play every now and then, but would
Yeah.
wear the shirt and the hat all the time. So it's like, it's almost like coupling the experience, a good experience for golf for somebody that doesn't play it a lot. Now they can always tie that good experience to Buena Gente, like
Yeah,
the apparel, the this, right?
exactly.
It's I don't know. I think it's um it's impactful for people, right, to experience the game of golf in a way that is completely different from what they perceive it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, this is for, again, the same three words: old, rich, white guys, right? And it's
Right.
like, all right, when you go out there and you bump your music, not too loud, because we understand, right? But
Enough
in
for
a
you
comfortable
to
level,
enjoy in your
yeah,
circle. Yeah.
exactly, a comfortable level. Um, you take it easy out there. You have fun. You laugh and all this stuff, and then you create this memory of like, oh, golf actually is kind of cool,
Yeah.
especially like what we said in the very beginning. As long as I'm with my people and I create that community and I interact with the people that align with my values, then of course it'll be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. You
Yeah,
you bring the good vibes to the course. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And all right, so before we wrap it up, I'm gonna ask you kind of like three rapid fire questions,
Uh-oh.
and then we'll wrap it up there. But first one, what's next for Buena Gente? Anything new, exciting? I know
The
you talked
women's
about the
line, man.
women's apparel. All right,
Yeah.
women's apparel.
The women's stuff. And then I have a couple of drops next year with much, much larger names,
Okay,
names
cool.
that So I'm excited about that. And really just to continue to innovate in this golf space,
Nice.
finally, hopefully get the right manufacturer to get the pinky ring golf gloves out.
Hell
And
yeah.
so, yeah.
Nice. All right, cool. Next question is your favorite Puerto Rican dish.
Oh, arroz blanco, habichuela guisa, and chuleta frita.
Hell
Fried
yeah.
pork chops is,
Mm,
um,
that's the good
and then
stuff right there.
yeah, 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 fried pork chops. So
Um,
that's
d-
like hands
eh,
down.
in Puerto Rico, I know. I mean, like the coladas are big here for like the Cubans, like the Cuban espresso. Do you guys do? Are you guys big into the espresso in the morning? And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
In the morning, then at 3 p.m. every
yeah,
day.
exactly. Right after lunch or
We're gonna
late
meet
late lunch
somewhere, man.
hour. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, coffee is a big thing. When I lived over there, I didn't drink
Hmm.
coffee at the time, but my brother-in-law, he's Mexican from California, and
Hmm.
he moved and stayed with us a few years when he was married to my sister, and he'd want these size coffees or even bigger, like, and he'd go get a coffee, and they'd give him a coffee like this, and he'd be
Yeah,
like,
and
"Yo,
it's
give
like,
me
what's
five,
that?
give me five
Li-
coffees, man.
little
What's
did he
going on?"
know. Little did he know that thing
Yeah,
packs a punch.
yep, 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 yep. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. All right, cool. Last question. In your opinion, what does it mean to stay tranquilo?
Um, Stay tranquilo is. I just spoke about this last week. I love the expression from Bruce Lee, "Be water, my friends," right? And I think of being tranquilo just like water.
Hmm.
There could be, you could be in the middle of the storm, but as long as you go with the flow, when it's needed for you to crash, then crash like a wave. And when it's
Yep.
not, then just be calm and serene like water.
Amen.
And I think that's so valuable depending on the circumstance, right? Like, if things are going bad, can you stay tranquilo and kind of diffuse some of the worries or kind of the turbulence around you? And then if things are going good, can you stay even keel and take the good with the good and know that everything's temporary, right? Like, the good's
Fuck
temporary and
yeah.
the bad's temporary, but as long as you stay tranquilo, that'll help you, adjust to the times.
I'm not gonna lie, that's probably my favorite answer to that question ever.
Thanks.
I'm not even like talking shit. Like I mean, that's probably exactly how I would,
Yeah,
describe it. It really is about riding the waves of life, and
yeah,
and whether you're crashing or you're cruising, it's You got to stay
Exactly.
leveled in all of it. So love that
Exactly.
answer.
Exactly.
But
Thanks,
all
bro.
right, man. Well, I appreciate you for coming on. I definitely enjoyed
Thank you,
this,
man.
and very happy again to be able to work with people like you and have similar motives and initiatives that we really want to push together. So thank you
Yeah,
again
for sure.
for all you're doing, and thank you again for the time.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate the invite. I appreciate la platicada. And
Yes, sir.
yeah, hopefully we get to talk a little more soon. I know we will. You know, we got some
Absolutely.
stuff cooking. All right,
100%. All
man.
right,
Thank you.
brother. Appreciate it.
Peace.